What's up, everyone? Welcome into, what is this, episode 7 now?
Something like
seventh
that.
year, 7th episode of the show this year.
This little show that
Lucky
we like to
seven.
call the Players Club.
Lucky
here.
seven.
Lucky seven.
Lucky seven.
Nice.
Hope you guys enjoyed last week's episode with The Glove, Mr. Gary Payton. We are back with another excellent episode today. A man who needs no introduction, 14-year NBA vet, NBA champ, two-time Big Three champ?
Yes.
Two-time Big Three champ. And
Can't relate to that one.
Back to back champ.
You'll have to share some secrets about how we can
Please,
win one
please.
ourselves here. But ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Steven Jackson, thanks for being here.
Happy
It's a pleasure.
to be here. Honored.
Appreciate it,
Honored.
Stephen. I really do appreciate it. And, you know, it's interesting, since we've been doing this, when I have the different guests on, I actually do a lot of research, just having been in broadcasting. And I'm glad, because otherwise I would probably have never really read all about you and what you've done. And as I told you when you first got here, you have a very interesting life that you led. And if you don't mind, I'd like to get into something about that and start out. How did you get into basketball? And I want to see if you start telling me something that I'm going to ask you about, but you might bring it up yourself. So how did you get into basketball?
Well, I grew up in a small city called Port Arthur, Texas. It's like an hour from Houston, an hour from Louisiana. So we right there on the Gulf. People don't know, but I have a long line of basketball players in my family. None made pro or big time college or anything like that. But my city, all of my uncles and cousins are state champions. So, my sister, and a lot of people don't know this, my older sister was an All-American. She was one of the top players in Texas.
No way.
And my sister averaged like 35 and 14 as a senior. She ended up going to Wichita State, and around the time the WNBA was getting ready to start, she ended up getting pregnant, so she didn't make it. I grew up going to Lincoln High School games on a Friday, where my town is so small, the whole city looks forward to Friday basketball games. And I used to go to those games as a kid, sneak in.
It's like Friday Night Lights for football.
For basketball, exactly. Same thing, Rick. And I used to go as a kid and watch my cousin and them, win games, and the state championships were held at the Drum at UT in Austin. And we used to travel there every year for the state championship. So I want to experience that and win the state championship and be a part of my family. So that's how I fell in love with the game of basketball.
Okay, and what about tell me a little bit about your brother.
My oldest brother. Okay, yeah, my oldest brother passed when I was 16, so he had a big part of me playing basketball too, because my brother showed me a lot of what not to do. He was in the streets. He did a lot of things he wasn't supposed to do, and the things he was doing ended up his life being taken the same way. So my brother was very important, because I don't think I would be successful. I wouldn't know the true meaning of right or wrong. I wouldn't know the true meaning of treating others how you want to be treated if I didn't see my brother and the life he lived. I love him to death. I miss him. But the life that he lived and the things he taught me really showed me, what made me a man, and showed me how to be an honorable person and not just live a life of trying to survive and willing to demean people to get ahead.
What was his name?
Donald Buckner.
Okay, and what impact did that horrific experience of seeing what happened to him have on you as far as your development as a person?
It destroyed me, Rick. I can't lie, because that's somebody who I looked up to. Growing up in a city like that, it's not many positive role models, right? My brother wasn't the most positive, but he was a provider. And a lot of times you loyal to who's providing for you, right? My brother was buying me nice clothes, taking me around to see girls and to the movies and stuff that I couldn't afford myself, right? So, you know, that's a form of love, you know, and he showed me that the most. My mama worked so much that I hardly seen my mom. Like, she worked so hard and so much, I barely seen her during the course of a day. And just the time and the willingness to teach me and protect me from things was something that I didn't have from my father or anybody else. So when I lost him, it destroyed me because I had no direction in. I had to become a man and figure things out myself, which is real hard because I didn't know everything and I wasn't educated, you know, and I had a good support system with my family, but it was hard without him because I really had to dig in and, you know, be the man in my household when he left.
Well, I think I've read a little bit about the fact that he was such an influence on you and took care of you and protected you, that you kind of have that protection thing yourself, don't you?
Yeah, and I think that's the whole thing why the brawl happened, why nobody really understand me on the brawl, with the brawl situation with Ron. Like, losing my brother, I instantly became like a super protector to my friends. Like, everywhere I go, like, anybody tell you, if I'm with you, if something happened right now, somebody came and interrupted our set and disrespected one of you, I'll lose it because I'm just that guy. You know, I've always been that guy because I don't go around demeaning people. You know, I don't go around disrespecting people. I'm very respectful. So it really turned me into a protector. You know, so even Donnie Walsh spoke on it. I'm glad you asked that question, Rick. When the brawl happened and we couldn't speak for so long, you know, Donnie Walsh spoke up for me. Said, I can't speak about other guys that was in this incident, but I can speak about Stevie Jackson, why he did what he did. And he explained the situation about me losing my brother.
With Ron Artest in the situation,
exactly.
Going in the stands. For you people who don't know about that, they had the big brawl in the game against the Pistons when he was playing for the Pacers. And you got suspended. Well, Ron got suspended for 70-something games. You got suspended for 30-something games. So what was that like for you?
It was, you know, the game of basketball being taken from you. You know, that's how I was feeding my family. They fined me for $3 million. So, you know, and taking the game from me and taking my money, like, that was just devastating because there's nothing I could do. I wasn't educated enough to be able to speak on the brawl how I would now, Rick, because if you think about it, we were at work. We shouldn't have been suspended. If you throw a beer in anyone's face on the street, that's assault. But we wasn't looked at that because we were rich athletes and we should have just been the bigger guy. No. If somebody throw a beer in your face, Rick, you're gonna lose it.
I had experience like that.
You see what I'm saying?
No, I'm serious.
So we wasn't wrong. We was at work. So today,
so you feel
have
better.
the Malice at the Cow Palace?
So you no. So you feel better. It was in Seattle. It was a playoff game. Seattle. In Seattle, when you played there, it was an ice rink, and there was a little narrow thing where they had opened up where the ice was, you know, and you go in to go to the locker room, and it's really close. And so we're walking off the court at the end of the game, and this guy throws a beer right in my face, you know, and comes in. And so now all of a sudden it's going crazy. So now
there's no cameras back there.
No, but I didn't go into the stands and all, but I'm going off, and the guy, and it happened. I mean, and then it went crazy. The cops are out there. People are coming out of the stands. Lady came up behind me, hit me with a purse. I mean, it was crazy.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, but you know, we didn't get suspended because we didn't go into the stands, but I can relate what you're going to. I mean, that's just a normal reaction to something that happens, and you're going to try to protect yourself. And so I think that it was a bit excessive, to say the least.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but it did. I didn't see many guys going in the stands after that, though.
Oh no, not at all. You know what I'm saying? And I'm glad that was the first and last time. That I hope it don't ever get that bad. But you know, I wish that it could be looked at again, because you know, we didn't actually fight the team we were playing. We actually broke it up.
Fans,
yeah, you know what I'm saying? A fan started that, you know what I'm saying? And it was because a beer was thrown in a grown man's face, you know? But I learned a lot from that, too.
I'm sure you did.
I learned a lot from that, the game being taken away from me. And I wasn't there for my teammates, because that year was our championship year with the Pacers. I think we could have pulled it off.
So I didn't think we were going to get into the Malice at the Palace that quickly.
Yeah.
But
this is why you never have a strict script when you do an interview.
You gotta flow.
You got to go where the flow takes you,
I
baby.
love it.
That's right.
So I got a couple quick follow-ups on that. You've done some great interviews in the past about what transpired in the locker room after the game, with some things that were said by Ron, some things that were said by Coach Carlisle, Coach Brown.
Yep.
For people that haven't heard those stories, could you share a little bit about what happened in the locker room after that?
Yeah, well, after the fight, we all end up in the locker room, and you know, everybody's adrenaline is pumping.
Right.
You know, I didn't even know it, but I had skin missing from my shins from hopping over the bleachers, and didn't feel anything because of adrenaline. So I'm trying to wipe my legs, and Ron comes in there, bro. I didn't know we had this many N-words on the team. I'm like, what? He say, you think we're gonna get in trouble? Everybody like, oh, bro, you trouble.
Yeah.
You lucky we have a job, bro.
Right.
Like, the only person who was laughing was Jamal Tinsley because he always used to, hearing Ron say crazy things like that. And during that time, Jermaine comes in the locker room and he's just, I think as Jermaine got upset, he got bigger. By this time he was the biggest guy in the arena. And he
became the Hulk.
He came in the locker room, boom, boom. Hey, and coaches, don't be grabbing us when we trying to, I guess somebody grabbed him in the middle of when he was trying to fight or whatever and holding him back, whatever. Mm-hmm. And Rick was, had been going through a lot during that time too. So Rick adrenaline was pumping too. Rick came back at J.O. and was like, don't you be pushing us. My coach got hit in the mouth because Mike Brown, had a little blood coming out of his mouth and they got chest to chest. So now the players and the coaches chest to chest. And we have to end up, the media come in there and break it. PR come in there and break it up. And we have to calm it down, but it was chaos, and it was chaos.
One of those things you'll never forget, right?
No, I'll never forget. Yeah. Never forget.
Well, here's the thing: 14 years you've been in there, and this is the part that I think you were obviously a star in high school, right? Did great All-American things of that nature, but you didn't get right in.
Yeah.
I mean, how did you deal with the fact that you had to go play minor league basketball for a couple of seasons? Tell us a little about that journey, because you were overseas, you were in South America. What happened?
So I get drafted by Phoenix. Phoenix around that time had the second to last pick in the draft. They only had one pick because that's the year they made that big trade for McDyess, George McLeod, Rex Chapman, and they had Jason Kidd and Steve Nash that year. So they told me they was going to draft me in the second round, but was going to cut me and send me to the CBA at the time. The CBA was on his last leg around that time. We was traveling in big vans for 8-hour games, 8 hours drives for games. And that lasted probably like a month or two. And I ended up going to Australia. I was still 18 at the time. And I get to Australia and break my right foot. Have to come home. So that time I'm devastated. I'm like, well, maybe I don't see the NBA at all, once I come back from Australia. And but at the time, I'm still at home doing things I shouldn't be doing. And I get another opportunity to go overseas to Venezuela and Dominican Republic, and I start winning championships at these places. And I end up coming back, trying out for the Bulls. I make it through a great week of a camp with the Bulls. The day before it cuts, we in a scrimmage, I break my other foot.
Oh, jeez.
So I call my mama. I remember this vividly. I call her and I'm telling her, maybe the basketball thing is not for me. Maybe I should do something else. She's like, you're not finna come home and do what you think you're finna do, get back into the streets or whatever. And so I end up going back home and end up getting caught up in the same things where I get a call from Mike Bibby to come try out, to come work out with him and go play trial for Vancouver Grizzlies. I go to Vancouver with them. They were in summer league at the time. Have a great summer league. End up getting cut by them.
Damn.
I got cut by 17 to 18 NBA teams before I end up getting the job. After I get cut, I played so well in summer league, end up landing a job, training camp job in New Jersey. End up balling out in training camp and end up starting that year, first game of the season.
So going through everything that you went through, from injuries to just in the environment that you grew up in, and just different things happening with that and throughout your life. How did you keep going? Keep chasing basketball, keep chasing your dreams and stuff like that?
Well, even sitting here right now, a year and a half ago, I lost my little sister, and a month and a half later, I lost my little brother.
Oh, man, sorry to hear that.
And my brother's funeral was on my mom's birthday.
Wow.
So this happened just a year and a half ago. So, life don't stop lifing, you know what I mean? But I have my own responsibilities. My children depend on me. For some time, I'm not saying I've gotten numb, but I was telling Rick, I've learned how to make love to the good and bad times, because I know I'm not different than nobody else. People have it worse than me. A lot of people do have it way worse than me. So I'm definitely blessed, but it get hard at times. But for some type of way, I just continue to believe in my faith and just know that it don't rain always, you know what I mean?
Back in those days,
it's hard though.
Wouldn't you say if you had to pick one thing out as the reason to get you through it is because you had a great passion for the game?
No question. I knew that was everything I had. I wasn't good at school. I wasn't just somebody who was willing to work a 9 to 5, but I knew I had the gift for basketball. One thing I knew, I had a gift for basketball. And I tell you, Rick, when I was 5 years old, I played in the YMCA game. The final score was 42-40. I had 42 points. So as a kid, I knew.
Like back in high school, Steve.
I knew I had, the gift of basketball. And even when I was hanging out, Rick, I'll go hang out, but after school, I'll be in the gym all day. I'll still be in the streets, but I'll be at the gym all day. So I never stopped playing basketball. And I think the main moment when I knew I had an opportunity, Rick, is when my junior year, we won the state championship, and I wanted to stay my senior year and play at Lincoln High School in my hometown. Well, my mom and them sent me to Oak Hill, to Steve Smith, to the prep school. And I had no idea where I was going to, but I since been able to travel in high school and play in those big tournaments, and playing against Kobe Bryant and all these guys.
Developing confidence, right?
That gave me so much confidence, but it also let me know that, okay, this could happen. This could possibly, I could see it now. Because you don't see NBA players where I'm from. Maybe if I could have spoke to one as a kid, I'd be like, okay, now I can touch it.
Yeah.
I can see it. But going to Oak Hill made me really see that I could possibly make it.
Yeah, but to your credit, okay, you had all that. You got all that confidence. Then all of a sudden you get drafted, and the next thing you know, all the stuff we just talked about happened, but yet you persevered.
Yeah.
So that's a real tribute to you and the fact that you had something that you knew was a goal, and you did everything you could to make it. That's not an easy thing to do. So I just really respect what you were able to accomplish. But even then, you get in there, and then you had this. Most people, you have a life like this. Sometimes it's here, and it goes here. You were this way, like a freaking roller coaster. And seriously, I mean, if you look at your stats and you
Some
see
were self-inflicted wounds.
I mean, yeah, well, probably so. But the thing is that the way you played, sometimes you played and you didn't play well. Then next thing you know, all of a sudden you're playing like an all-star, and then all of a sudden you go someplace. I mean, how the hell did that happen?
It was crazy because I think the first couple of years, I was really trying to prove myself. I think being able to play with San Antonio, thanks to Pop and Tim Duncan and them for believing in me, giving me a starting position. I think being on that championship team and, a lot of those games in the playoffs, I carried us big time. Like Tim wasn't.
Some big games.
Yeah, Tim wasn't playing well. It was just really me and Ginobili.
Did you set a record for three-pointers? That was another team.
I don't think it was a record for three-pointers. But
in the playoff game.
In the playoff, yeah. That was Golden State.
Golden State, yeah. Well, that's why I remember that one.
Yeah, Golden State. We got rid of Dallas. I think those years early, were good, for me because after winning a championship and not getting paid, a lot of players feel like after you win a championship and you play well, this is your year to get paid. And don't get paid, and I had to go prove myself again in Atlanta. I finished that season in Atlanta 8th in scoring in the league from All-Star break. And it just went on from there, Charlotte averaged 20 multiple years, Golden State averaged 20. But I think I never got my respect, Rick, because I felt like I should have been a multiple All-Star because I carried two teams to the playoffs after they had double-digit year droughts, Charlotte and Golden State, my first year there. I didn't make it because of the brawl, because of the way people,
perceived me,
you know what I mean? And I'm fine with that, Rick, because I decided to protect my friend. And if I have to be looked at a certain way because I'm a good friend, I'll deal with that.
Yeah.
Do you feel like because I know you said that you would like the NBA to like look back at like the tapes and stuff like that. Do you feel like if something like changes when they look back, do you feel like you're owed an apology?
I don't even want an apology. I want my money. To be honest, that's basically it. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't do nothing wrong.
Yeah.
And this is what people don't know, Rick. And y'all gonna go back and look at it. The guy that I hit threw another beer in Ron's face. So I went up the stands and I grabbed Ron. I ran up 7 rows. So obviously, if I wanted to hit somebody, I would have hit somebody in those 7 rows. I didn't hit anybody. I was going to get Ron.
Right.
I got to Ron on the top row, on the initial row.
Go ahead.
And as I grabbed him, the guy in front of me threw another beer in his face.
Oh my
so
God.
that's why I attacked him. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I wasn't going up there with no malice or with no intention to hurt anybody. So if they go back and look at that, they'll understand that, why I retaliated, because he was assaulted again, and they didn't never looked at that. The whole time they were just looking at these guys are big athletes. They shouldn't be in the stands, taking it to the club. That's basically what we did.
So I got a couple of questions. You mentioned your time in Charlotte. You mentioned your time in Golden State. So first one is about your time in Charlotte. Is it true that MJ, when he was the owner, he used to scrimmage with you guys in practice?
Well, he did one time.
Okay.
I think, and it was the best thing for us because it changed our season. The beginning of the season when I get to Charlotte, I'm playing well. Me and Joe Wallace was playing well, but the team is not playing well.
Mm-hmm.
And he came into practice after we lost like 2-3 games in a row and really just throwing around his accolades, telling us that we ain't this. You think you're an all-star? Because he started off the season saying he has 2 all-stars on his team. You know what I'm saying? When I got traded there, he started talking about that. And I knew he was talking to me when he said, you think you're an all-star? Because I said it before I got there. You think you're an all-star, da-da-da? So he practiced with the second team. He made one of the guys get off, and he's ended up guarding Gerald Wallace. He don't have just a crazy scrimmage, but the buckets he made was statement buckets. And they ended up winning the scrimmage. And after he wins the scrimmage, all we hear is, y'all ain't cursing us out, take my shoes off, da-da-da-da. I'm talking about talk to us so bad, talked about his accolades where we couldn't say a thing. And that it sunk in though. You know, we wasn't as good as we thought we was. You know, a 50-year-old guy came in and got the second team undefeated in practice, you know, but that shows, you know, the person he was and the aura of Michael Jordan. But I think after that, we ended up being the best defensive team in the league. We ended up making the playoffs that year. And, you know, I think him doing that basically turned our team around.
We might need to implement that strategy in our practice, Rick. We may need you to come out of retirement, kick some ass in practice.
Let me tell you something. First of all, I'm not a yeller and a screamer, okay? Because I almost quit basketball because I had a coach in high school like that. I mean, here's the thing. No coach could ever be more upset with me when I make a mistake than I am with myself. And so the last thing I needed is some guy getting in my face and screaming and hollering at me, and I just had enough of it, and I was going to quit. And fortunately, my brother and my father, who was a semi-pro player and coach, they talked me out of it, obviously. But yeah, I mean, so that's a hard thing to do, and not everybody relates well to be yelling, and that's the thing about coaching.
Yeah.
You're like a psychologist. You have to understand your players and how you deal with them. Some guys, you got to put your arm around them. Some guys, you got to get in their face and yell at them. I mean, so so yelling isn't always the way to do it, especially today. Back in our day, that was the thing. I mean, you know, we're talking about decades and decades ago.
They called it being coachable.
Yeah, right. You got, and they yelled and they screamed and they did all the crazy stuff. And nowadays, you do that, you're going to lose most of your guys because this is the world of entitlement now. Players think they're entitled to so much now. And you can't yell and scream and holler at them. I'm sure you probably have witnessed that yourself in your progression through the league in 14 years.
Yep, and I had a blessing because Pop was able to do that, but he did it through our best player, right? He screamed at Tim Duncan, so how could he not scream at me? That's a different situation, you know, it's being coachable. But these days, I think you have to be more friends with your players. Like even the guys I have on my team, like I know I can't scream at these guys because of how passionate I am, and it might end up, you know, us bumping heads, but it's a different way you got to handle it, and the respect is there. But as far as being that old type of coach where you get in guys' face, I think that's over with.
Yeah, that's interesting. So many times now you hear guys are hired just because they're players' coaches, right? Actually, on that note, curiously talking about coaches, how do you feel about what's transpired with the Lakers this year? With hiring J.J. Redick, somebody who's never had any coaching experience, has a relationship with LeBron, obviously, and is seen as kind of one of those guys that's maybe a player's coach, per se. What's your take on the whole situation that's happened in L.A. this offseason?
Is it guys more qualified? Yeah, of course. But find a better friend. Go find a LeBron James as a friend. Like, you can't be mad at J.J. because LeBron wants him as a coach or he has an opportunity to do that. Like, I'm the guy that really doesn't get mad at people when, like, say he doesn't deserve that. Where you are, what you negotiate. JJ was able to negotiate a friendship with LeBron to be able to get a coach. Do I think it was the best fit for him? No. Like I said, do I think it's other guys that were more qualified? Yes. But he's in this situation. You know, he got an opportunity. He wanted to coach. I guess he convinced LeBron, you know, enough, or whoever he needed to convince to feel like that he's confident enough to get the job done. And that's what it is. I hope he does a great job. But if he doesn't, then I hope that they hold him accountable just like they held Darvin Ham and all the other coaches accountable.
Right. Yeah.
You know, that when things don't go well with the Lakers and LeBron and the other players don't want to be accountable, they want to throw it on the coach. If it happens that way, they need to throw that same responsibility on JJ as well. Exactly.
Well, I think the biggest problem with the NBA to me is, and it's been gone forever, coaches get too much credit at times, and they certainly get too much blame at times. And the guy that gets off the hook most of the time knows the GM.
Oh, GM.
Because I give you chicken crap and tell you to make chicken salad out of it, okay? And so the guy that should be held accountable is the guy who chose the freaking players, because you can't win with bad talent. And I don't understand why the NBA doesn't give their coaches a real say in who they bring to the team and draft, because that's my job. I'm the one that has to coach them. Now I can take responsibility for not doing the job that I'm supposed to do because I have the people that I wanted, not the people that some general manager gave to me.
Exactly.
Right?
I mean, I think that's why San Antonio has so much success.
Because they work together. But they work together, yes.
And
He
Papa's
works with
involved from
RC.
top to bottom.
That's right.
You know, and as you can see, OKC, he's son Sam Presti. That's a San Antonio guy. Sam has been over there doing some amazing things. And to speak on what you talk about, he's doing that over there at OKC. The same exact thing you're speaking of. So it can work that way.
Definitely can work the way. Now, I have to ask your experience at Golden State. Okay. You played? No, well, I have to. I mean, that's my team. So what was it like for you and the players that you played with there? What was that experience like?
We wasn't as good as you.
No, well, you weren't as good as these guys recently either. But.
Exactly. But we were able to do some great things. I think, like I said, we was able to get to the playoffs after a 13-year drought.
Trust me, because that was $10,000 I left over. Okay, that's how stupid it was. Seriously,
Really?
No. I'm in there with Scotty Sterling, who used to be with the Raiders and stuff. And he said, Franklin Muley, the owner's on vacation, sailing somewhere, and he said, Rick, I can't believe you're going to blow this deal over $10,000. I said, Scotty, I think you got it freaking backwards. I can believe you're willing to let me go over $10,000. And so I really didn't want to leave.
Yeah.
And so he let me go. And 13 years later, no playoffs. So obviously that was a bad mistake on their part.
Yeah, terrible mistake.
So what happened? How did you turn it around?
I think I ended up getting traded during the season, mid-season, because I ended up getting in more trouble after another situation in Indiana. And I get traded to Golden State, which was a blessing in disguise because I landed on the team with guys that I grew up with. Baron Davis, Al Harrington, Jason Richardson, guys I've been knowing my whole life. We would play for a coach that, for me, believed in me more than any coach I've ever played for, Don Nelson. Yeah. I think he was the winningest coach at one point for a long time, and he gave me the best compliment ever, in the playoffs that year after we beat Dallas in the first round. He was like, if I had my choice, I would love to have 5 Steven Jacksons on the court at one time, because he said I can do everything on the court. And that meant a lot to me. But during that season, he just constantly, I was never made captain. I'll tell y'all a funny story. He invited me and Baron Davis to play a game called Shuffleboard at this little hole-in-the-wall bar in San Francisco. And I never knew what shuffleboard was, didn't drink scotch. I really wasn't a drinker. He calls us in there. He calls us to the bar. He has his best friend, Larry Riley. We drink probably a bottle and a half of scotch. So me and Baron are just drunk out of our minds, don't know how we're going to get home. He taps us on the back and says, yeah, I just brought you here to tell you guys you're captains. My first time being a captain, and he just walk out, and it's an Uber outside for us. This is how I found that I was captain. So me and BD looked at each other like, kind of like this coach. This is our type of coach. And we played super hard for him where, I think the end of the season we had to win 18 out of 21 games to make the playoffs. And we did it, and we dominated everybody. And the combination of small ball, the way we played it, I think it hasn't been seen yet, because not only were we playing small ball, we were more scrappier. We were a more physical, a small physical team. You had me and Matt Barnes actually guarding power forwards and centers. And we wasn't big as those guys, but we had enough heart to battle with them, and then Al Harrington to come in. But on the offensive side, we had mismatches everywhere. Monte Ellis coming in, averaging 20 points. I think Baron averaged 20. I averaged 20. Jason Richardson averaged about 18 points. So we almost had 4 guys average 20 points.
That team was stacked, man.
Yeah. And we played for each other. This was one of those teams, Rick, and from playing so long and being around the game so long, we were one of those teams, we woke up, ate breakfast together. After practice, we went ate lunch together. We went to the clubs together. We went to the mall together. Like, we did everything together.
I don't know about the club's such a great idea, but
we did everything together. When one of the guys got married, we were the best men, groomsmen at each other's weddings. So I think that team was a special team because not only did we understand we had something special, but we played for each other. And even me and Matt's relationship to now, me and Matt started our relationship in Golden State. To the point where him and his mom became best friends before she passed. She passed real fast when we first got to the team due to cancer. Rest in peace to Matt's mom. But a lot of things happened on that Golden State team that affect a big part of my life today.
Well, I say you've had an incredible career doing things of all of the different things because you, 8 different teams, 9? It was like,
8 different teams.
So what experience, would you had to place them in order, 1, 2, and 3 for you and your career that means the most to you?
I think I'll put the Pacers, having Larry Bird call my phone and verbally hear his voice tell me that I'm getting my big contract. I think that's the third biggest thing. Second was being able to beat Dallas, the number 1 seed in the first round, and I had big games. I think I had 33 points in that game 6, having a big series. But number 1 is win the championship. That's what you play for.
Yeah.
Being with Greg Popovich and the guys I was with, David Robinson, Tim Duncan, and the role I played, that's what you play for, to be the best in the world. So winning the championship is definitely at the top.
Yeah.
Quick follow-up about the Spurs real quick. How does the Spurs organization, like how it's run from within, because obviously they run a very tight ship and not much, I feel like, gets leaked to the public about why San Antonio is San Antonio. Can you shed light on why they are so successful?
Well, and it's been, it's a lot of things that go on that could have reached the papers at time. But I think as far as the city, and all they have is the Spurs. They don't have a football team. They don't have professional baseball. All they have. So I think as a city, I think they're all connected together, where they're doing whatever's best for the team and the organization and how the city looks. I mean, if something happens, I don't think that the police will have no problem with calling Pop if something happened to one of the players, or calling them. You know what I'm saying? We got this kid, we got one of your players here, nobody's seen him, the media won't see him, we just want to let you know such and such, and probably sweep it under the rug. I'm pretty sure that's happened a couple times. Not with me when I was in San Antonio, but I'm pretty sure it happened. And I think there's just, as a city, they're all on the same page. I think for the most part, when people do go out, all the places that the players do go, they have a relationship with the Spurs, or the Spurs owned or something like that. So they do a great job of keeping everything in-house. And as far as winning-wise, there's no nonsense. When you walk in that door, you understand this is the standard. You're willing to work. We have to be this. If we're not this, we're going to continue to work to get to this. We're going to make every step to get to this. And they're not just going to show it as far as in the draft. They're going to show it as coaches. They're caring about the players showing up, having the facility to get better. Everything you need is A1 and championship standard. And you see that as soon as you walk in the door in San Antonio.
Well, that goes back to the roots of the ABA, back when George Gervin and the other guys were there, because it was all basketball. I mean, the baseline bums, I remember all those guys a lot. And I mean, I think that's where it comes from. And then the best thing to me is that they got a relationship where they had a general manager and a coach who worked together.
Exactly.
Most teams don't do that really well. I think the Warriors worked pretty well, too, when Bob Myers was there, and one of the reasons they did it because he and Steve, I think, had a pretty good relationship and gave Steve had some input. And as a coach, that's all you can ask for, is to have a chance to have an input for who you want. Like even in our stuff with the Big Three, which has been fun. I mean, I've loved doing this. When they finally got to the point, because, well, first you started as a player, okay?
Right.
So you had a choice, and the captains had all the authority and whatever it is.
Yep.
I mean, finally, after 4 years or something, they finally let the coach have a say, at least and get one guy that you want.
One guy, yeah. The captain gets the first pick, coach gets the second pick now,
I mean, it's like, so it's a big difference. I mean, when you have an opportunity to bring in the people that you know are going to, not just the system, because I think that's a problem in basketball. I'd love to get your thoughts on this. There are system coaches. And I think system coaches can work in football because they draft according to the positions and the system that the coach has. In basketball, it's hard to necessarily do that. And I think you have to put in a system predicated on the talent of your players.
Right.
Okay, and I say it's like taking a thoroughbred racehorse and you make him pull a plow. Okay, if you got a thoroughbred racer, you got to let him run. Okay, and the same thing with players. You have to find out what they do. This is what I love to do. I get what's your best skill? What do you do? Where's your favorite spot on the floor? And then utilize you and put the ball in your hands in the spot that you feel most comfortable, but give you a chance to be you.
Right.
And I don't think that happens all the time in the NBA. I think a lot of coaches force guys to play their system, and it doesn't work really well. No, you think, your thoughts?
No, I agree. I mean, even with Big Three, I drafted according to my best player, the best player I brought in, because I'll need guys to play around them to make our team better. Perfect example. We won a championship with Jared Jack that year, and we had Briscoe as well, but Briscoe was basically some games the best player. Jared Jack decided not to play, so I still had Briscoe. But I knew I needed a defender and another scorer. I went and got Earl Clark. At the time, he was the best defender in the league, two-time Defensive Player of the Year. So I knew those two guys would match, and they're both from Jersey. You know what I'm saying? So I was, like you said, you gotta do what's best for your players and bring in guys that mesh, and that's how I was thinking in Big Three. Even with bringing the guys we have in now, those guys I don't need them to score points. I need them to bring some energy. So I agree exactly what you're saying. You have to build your team according to your players because that's the only way you can get the best out of them.
Yeah.
So back to the NBA for a second. Russell Westbrook is like one of my hands down favorite players
You and me
all
both.
time. Yeah.
You and me both.
Nobody plays with more energy than Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, at all. So my question is like, what are your thoughts on the transition from the Clippers to the Nuggets? Like, what were your thoughts on his exit and how it happened? And now him with the Nuggets, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I love Russ. I actually spoke to Russ like a month ago trying to get him on All the Smoke, and he was basically like, bro, I'm not doing it now. I'm away because when I come talk, I got a lot to say.
Yeah.
But he, I advocate for Russ a lot when people, when I feel like he's done wrong. But I love Russ because even though he's been, mistreated at times, he's been a professional, and you got to respect that. They can say he's not the player he used to be, but every team he goes to, he brings that energy that's contagious. Right? Even if the coach don't respect him or the team don't respect him, he goes out and gives 110% every time he's on their court, and that's all you can ask for. He has Hall of Fame numbers. If you look at triple doubles and the numbers he's put up in his career, but I think going to Denver, he's going to surprise a lot of people because over the years they've lost the energy guys. They lost Bruce. They lost Jeff Green. They lost all the guys that was their energy guys. Right? They're going to need a guy like Russ. They don't need a guy to come in and score points. You have Jokic, you have Murray. But you're going to have that other guy to come in and get 10 rebounds, maybe get you 8 assists, 4 steals. Like, Russ is going to be real important to that team. I hope he can expand his three-point ball the way J. Kidd did later in his career because it's going to be a lot of wide-open three-point shots for Russ in that offense, the way Michael Porter gets them. But for the most part, I think he'll fit in great because the energy he brings, I think it can help any team.
Do you feel like his stats with the Clippers specifically was like underappreciated? And it may not even be like from the Clippers standpoint, but just like from like a general standpoint, like what all he brought from like defense to rebounding to energy to like everything that he brought. Do you think that was ever like underappreciated at any point?
They're going to feel it this year.
Yeah.
They're going to feel it this year, big time, because you don't have, James Harden is not an energy guy.
Right.
He's not a guy that's going to play hard 110% on both ends of the ball. He's not that guy. I mean, you probably have 1 or 2 guys that can come out there and probably make a play, that'll get your team going. Russ was that guy. So they definitely going to miss Russ, and I'm kind of glad he did because Russ' career is coming to an end. This is a great shot at him to get a championship before he finishes. So
I agree.
Great position for him.
And he's playing with an amazing player.
Amazing
Joker. Joker is unbelievable.
Yeah,
he really is. The thing about Russell that I had said before, and if I had ever had a chance to talk to him years ago, you have to learn in basketball to let the game come to you, okay? You can't try to force things. In fact, 2 other guys, Brown and Jason Tatum, both, I think, fell into the same category. They try to force stuff, especially late in games. You can't do that in the game of basketball, and they get themselves in trouble. And that's what would happen to Russ because of his energy. He would try to force stuff, and if he just learned it, and I think he's gotten better at that. And I think he'll be a great asset to that team for exactly what you're saying. Yeah. He'll bring a dynamic to them that they don't have now and that they miss. So I think your observation on that is spot on. Absolutely right.
I agree.
I love his energy.
Yeah, me too.
You mentioned you tried to get him on the podcast.
Yeah.
Who are some other guys that are on the short list that you haven't been able to secure yet?
Well, I mean, for me, I have really 5 people that I probably could say that's my must-have before we stop shooting this show, if we ever stop shooting it. Seth Rogen.
Okay.
Robert De Niro.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Michael Jordan. Floyd Mayweather. And I would go Will Ferrell.
Oh, wow.
Will Ferrell.
So we win.
That's
Will Ferrell.
interesting.
He went to transcended that stupid show with the ABA.
love
He was
him,
shooting
bro.
underhand free throws. And he tried to, I said, I'm not doing that. Will.
They want you to do it.
It's crazy, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite actors of all time. Man.
That's
Will
awesome.
Ferrell,
Well, maybe he'll see this, and maybe.
hopefully.
So, what made you want to get into podcasting? Because that's become obviously a huge part of your kind of second career post playing now.
It was a blessing in disguise. Me and Matt both were doing Shout out to Rachel Nichols. She started me and Matt both doing ESPN.
The Jump?
Yeah, I was one of the first hosts on The Jump, me and Tracy McGrady. And that opened me to the media space. You know, I wasn't thinking about doing media. Rachel was always someone in the locker room that was always hanging around. And, you know, sometimes guys didn't want to talk to her. I always respected her, you know, and I always took the time to talk to her, say hi, Rachel, to the point now where she gave me this opportunity. So you never know. Treat people right all the time. You never know who can help you. Give your helping hand along the way.
That's why you have to be nice to people.
All the time. You know what I'm saying? All the time. You know what I'm saying? And she ended up giving me a job there. So me and Matt ended up working on ESPN and Fox. We were making all those shows hot. You know, nobody wasn't really watching them until me and Matt was on them. And Matt, you know, we were sitting around just, you know, fellowshipping, me and Matt, and he was like, we should do our own show. I'm like, okay. Just saying, okay, like, sure. I'm thinking he's just talking, you know, he's feeling good, just talking. Then he said, yeah, I think we need to do our podcast. I'm like, what's a podcast? You know, he started explaining it to me. And at that time, his close friend name is Ellen Reckerton. She helped start Red Table Talk and other shows. She even actually worked on Oprah, I think, too. So her and Matt are real friends. She ended up getting in touch with Brian Daly at Showtime. Showtime was into sports, but they wasn't into the podcast space. They had other shows on there, but it wasn't to the point where there was no show at the time that was as brash as me and Matt, that were 2 NBA champions, you know, that basically we wear our emotions on our sleeves, so we were outspoken. So Showtime was like, let's get behind it. They had no idea how it was going to be. The first photo shoot, Rick, we were on there, we were smoking on the photo shoot and all that. It was like, maybe this is not what we want. Maybe. But photo shoot dropped, blew up, everybody loved it. First episode was with J.R. Smith, 1 million views, you know, and it's just been up from here to the point where Showtime was bought out by Paramount, you know, so we ended up being bought out as well. But all Showtime sports, all Showtime boxing properties we own now. So it's all the Smoke Boxing. We have all the Smoke Boxing now, all the Smoke Productions, all the Smoke Fight.
Damn.
Yeah. And
you got an empire you're building.
We've been able to build a lot of things. We have over 7 shows on the DraftKings network. We partner with DraftKings network to put shows on their network. So we got a lot of good things coming from this, man. It's been a blessing for Brian Daly from Showtime and Matt to put their brains together to get a lot of this stuff going.
That's awesome.
Well,
wow,
we really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah,
honored, man. Thank you.
I think it's, as I say, it's a great story, what you've done with your life. I mean, you could easily have gone down a different path.
Yes.
Yeah, but you didn't. And so to your credit, congratulations on that. Continued success with your podcast and your media empire that you're building.
Thank you.
If you need an old guy sometime to be able to be there, you know.
Old legend. You got it.
So you got to
put legend in there.
Legend in your own mind. You know.
I got one more question here. You know, obviously we're here because of the Big Three, right?
Yes.
Big Three is a very, very physical league, right?
Yes.
Given the physicality of the league, you may know where I'm going with this question. Do you think an NBA great like a Kobe Bryant could have played in the Big Three, given how physical it is?
I was asked this question before, and I threatened the reporter who asked me that.
That's a stupid question.
It's just might be the dumbest question I've ever heard in my
Kobe Bryant,
life.
we could play anywhere. Well, the greatest story about Kobe Bryant is when he went to the Olympics and he told his guys the story there. I'm running right through Paul Gasol on the first freaking play.
His friend as well.
His teammate. Okay? And I watched that video. I said, oh, my God. And he just hit him right in the chest.
What 13-year-old Rick you know that has a kill list of players that he must kill in order for him to be the top player in the country? Nobody's thinking like that.
Yeah.
Only the great late Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, he was such a tragedy. I mean, I really
I
like
miss
Kobe
my classmate,
so much.
man. He was one of a kind, man.
Yeah, I got to know him a little bit and doing stuff. He was always so accommodating and so nice to my boys and whatever. And the guy that you talk about, somebody that has a passion and love the game of basketball.
Oh, man.
And what he was going to do for women's basketball, he was really gotten behind that with his daughter, and such a tragedy. But what a great guy.
Yeah.
Such a great soundbite, though. I had to throw it in there. We'll put it up on the video for anybody who hasn't seen it.
It's classic. I mean, it really is absolutely classic.
It's one of my favorites.
All right.
Well, Steven, thank you so much for the time.
No, my pleasure.
We really, really
Thank y'all for
appreciate it.
having me.
And until next time, guys.